Welcome to Midnight Menu Plus One. I'm Ray Canada.
And I'm Margot Moss.
We're here at Ted's Frost Top on Claiborne and Calhoun in Uptown New Orleans. Once a week, Margot and I meet here at Ted's, and we invite a member of New Orleans' restaurant community to join us. And we invite them to bring along a friend, a plus one. We never know who their plus one's going to be, but we'll find out in just a moment. And we are going to be talking with a very special guest tonight, Margot. I'm excited. I know you are. Tonight we have a man who once refused to serve Tom Cruise a meal. He's head chef at one of Uptown's finest restaurants, who once gave an Eskimo in Greenland his first ever cupcake. I cannot wait to meet such a man. But while we're eagerly anticipating our special guest, Margot, I'm just wondering if you know what great New Orleans food event happened on this date in history. Do you know this? Because you know everything about New Orleans food, so you probably know the answer to this.
Well, I like to think I've tasted everything, but I don't know everything. But what? Please tell me. I do not know that. Actually,
so it's okay. The po' boys, or poor boys to purists, I think. I've been corrected more than once about that. It was invented 84 years ago on this date.
Really?
Today. Yeah. You know how it happened? Yeah, that's worthy of applause. 1,000 streetcar operators went on strike, and they were often the union and supporters will provide them food, and so they made this very cheap concoction to feed the workers while they were picketing. And apparently it was at this place called Martin's. Maybe this is still around in your younger days, I don't know, but it's a place called Martin's on Ursulines in the Quarter, and they fed the guys with these sandwiches, poor boys, and that became the po' boy, and that was done 84 years ago today.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And we're still eating them, and thank you for striking.
And now everybody around the country has something they call a po' boy. When I go around to visit different places, I just got back from vacation. Pigeon Forge, Tennessee had a place that offered a po' boy.
Really?
Yes.
And was it on French bread?
Oh, I'm sure it was exactly like it is here. I'm sure. And the oysters were right out of the water, and it was just like it. I'm sure. But anyway, that's the trivia today. Well, I don't want to. We could banter about our weekend, but I don't want to waste any more time because I'm dying to hear our guest. Our special guest on Midnight Menu Plus One is a very complex individual. Apparently, he likes to feed Eskimos. He despises celebrity Scientologists. He loves to get pedicures. He's an expert on old school rap, and he's going to perform one for us in just a moment. He's promised. And in his spare time, he's also head chef of Upperline in Uptown New Orleans, on everybody's list of the city's greatest. It's the one and only amazing David Bridges. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here, y'all. I'm getting my little sugar rush going. My Ted's Frost Top root beer. And it's great to be here.
Sounds like you don't need any sugar rush.
Oh, no. Yeah,
you're an active person.
Yeah, I'm a natural freak, pretty much. Yeah, but you have to be to work in a kitchen. You always have to be running on fumes and everything.
Wow. So, well, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Well, great. It's good to be here.
Now, you're friends with one of the folks who helps us out from time to time on sound, Mitch Cry.
Oh, yeah. Mitch is a good friend. He and my brother's all radio DJ, and he and Mitch, sort of grew up together. And
in New Orleans?
Yes, here in New Orleans. And so after the Hurricane Katrina, Mitch actually moved to where I was living in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I owned a restaurant and offered Mitch a job, but I think he had declined at the time because I guess I get a little crazy sometimes.
Was he doing you a favor though?
Yeah,
by declining.
Yeah, because I would have wound up being mean to him, and he's like family, And so after that, I did get him a job with another good friend of mine there in town. I bought him a microwave. And Mitch did just fine till he could come back to the city and get back to the life he loved. Really.
Now, did you have need of a sound engineer in a restaurant?
No, he was actually working as a waiter for John Besh.
Oh, he's told us that before.
Yeah,
that's right,
when he moved up, when the Katrina hit and he moved up to Shreveport. And so Mitch is actually, I hate to say the word foodie because I think it's kind of a weird deal, but
he's got
Mitch
some
is
skills,
that. He does have some skills in the kitchen.
Skills
in the kitchen himself, for sure. Okay. He's brought me his own pastrami and smoked salmon and everything over to the restaurant. And it's been incredible.
Wait, he makes pastrami?
Yeah. He's made duck and regular beef and smoked salmon, all kinds of things. Oh, yeah.
So tell us the name of your restaurant in Shreveport, and how long ago was it?
it was Bella Fresca. I owned it for over 8 years, and then I got an itch to travel, and so I owned that and a bunch of other things. I sold it all and started traveling around a lot for about 3 years, maybe 3 or 4 years, and then decided to move back home here to New Orleans. And
so you grew up in New Orleans?
Yeah, I was born and raised here in New Orleans.
And you moved to Shreveport to start your business, your restaurant, or you had connections there?
Yeah, I moved there, and I wound up. There wasn't much to work. I had gone from New Orleans to Vermont to the Virgin Islands, and then to Florida. And then I moved to Shreveport. Just for some personal reasons that wound up being wrong. And then after that, since there wasn't too many places to work, I decided to open my own restaurant, and I found an investor. Talent's hard to come by, but money's on every corner. And sure enough, that was pretty easy for me to find, and I did that. So I was pretty successful for 8 years, but then I was just ready to go, and so I left. That was that.
And what kind of food was it?
It was contemporary Southern. It had a lot of influence of the city. And New Orleans, Shreveport is kind of a nice crossroads, of the Deep South, and so it's right in between, country fried chicken and shrimp remoulade. And so the food there was kind of a natural mix, actually, of my parents, my dad being from Texas and my mom being from New Orleans. And so just growing up with those flavors I related to as a kid just really resonated with the community, and I did really well. And the guys that have taken over the place since then have done really well. Also, they've opened up a second location. So I would say it's definitely the place to go in the city for sure.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And is that where I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, is that where Tom Cruise tried to eat in Shreveport?
Yeah.
Wait, you turned him down in Shreveport?
I sure did.
How often does Shreveport get people like Tom Cruise?
Also, after Katrina, all the movies started filming in Shreveport.
Oh, that's
they moved
true.
From New Orleans
right.
to there. And so every week it was somebody.
So why would you not feed Tom Cruise?
Well, because his assistant called. It was a Saturday night, and she's calling me at 5 o'clock wanting a reservation, and we're full. And so, and the girls, and I said, well, I'm sorry, no, we're full for 7:30, the most popular time in the world. You want to come at 9:30 or something like that? No. You want to come now? No. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, I can't. I don't have a table, ma'am. And she's like, well, this is for Tom Cruise. And I was like, well, I still don't have a table. I don't know what to tell you. I said, I have customers that have been coming to me for years, and they have these tables reserved. I'm not going to kick out somebody who's been coming to me forever just for Tom Cruise. I don't really care.
All right,
that is impressive.
That's an awesome story. But let me tell you something. If I'm ever eating an Upperline and Tom Cruise calls and the place is full, feel invited to do this. Come over to me and my wife and say, "Would you guys mind squeezing over a little bit? Tom Cruise wants to sit at the table with you." I would do it. I would be happy to have Tom Cruise sit on my lap or whatever it takes to be able to have a meal with him.
Well,
all
I'm
right.
sure.
He creeps me out like everybody else.
Do that.
But he's a small man anyway. He's like 5'4" or something anyway, isn't he?
But he wears very tall shoes.
So if David hooks you up at Upperline when Tom Cruise comes in, and you can ask him one question before you offend him and he leaves.
Tom Cruise?
Yeah, what would be your one question?
I'm not going to say it on the air because I'm scared to death of Scientologists. I'm not kidding you. Whenever I type the word Scientology online in any way, whenever it comes up, I put little asterisks in the middle because I think they have web crawlers going around. The premier of Germany, she actually said they're closer to a spy agency than a religion. You don't want to screw with this. They almost bankrupt this Newsweek.
Yeah.
Did you close shortly after that? I just want to know because
that's why you left Shreveport.
No. We didn't close. The restaurant stayed open and it's still going strong. No,
I know you have to say that on the air.
Scientologists didn't sabotage your personal life in Shreveport.
The Scientologists came after me. That's what happened. I knew somebody was to blame. It wasn't all the drinking. I knew that couldn't have been it. Finally!
Wow.
Well, aren't you glad you came on here?
Yes. Oh, my gosh. Okay, that's one story down, 75 to go. Okay, that's great. I love this. We're never going to get this in an hour. But I want to talk about Upperline just right off the bat for a second, if we could, and then maybe get to some of these these.
Then I
side
want to
notes.
ask him if he really had a drinking problem. But I'll let you talk about food first. Go ahead.
Is that gonna be a long or short answer, David? Do you think?
Well, it's all a matter of opinion, and everybody has a different opinion. I guess it's like in anything in life with retrospect. When I look back, this is what I'll say. All the funniest times in my life have something to do with alcohol.
Yeah.
And I've had a ton of really great, incredible times in my life also that were extremely funny and hilarious that didn't have to do with alcohol. Every single bad time I've ever had in my life included alcohol. And that's it. So it's just one of those deals. I've had some great times, and growing up in New Orleans, I mean, you're 16 years old. You're going to the bar in the French Quarter that's next door to the police station.
Right.
I had no idea.
Sloppy Jims.
It was Melius's was the name of the bar.
On Royal Street.
Well, this was on Conti.
Grant knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Off air, I'm going
on
to talk to you about
Conti.
Sloppy
This was
Jims
on
later.
Conti next to the police
I can't
station.
believe you just mentioned Sloppy Jims.
Yeah, before you got to Royal, headed
Okay.
away from Bourbon. And that was when I was in high school. And the policeman worked the door, So, but when I first moved out of the state, for a small break from graduating high school till I first started cooking, that 6 months, I went to school in Tallahassee. And so I show up in Tallahassee and I go to the bar and they won't let me in. And I'm 17 and I just had no idea. I'm like, what do you mean
You
can't
had a hard day of culinary
drink?
school, and you wanted
Well, it was community college.
to cooking at.
Yeah. And so I just didn't know that you had to be 21 to drink in other places other than New Orleans. I
Like they
had
really
no
meant it.
idea. Yeah. And so, that's why I only lived in Tallahassee for 6 months.
Well, I mean,
And
I just came back from a city in the deep south that'll remain nameless, but the not Pigeon Forge, another place before that. And they made you sit down when you had at bars. When you're outdoors at a bar, you have to sit down with your beer. You can't stand with a beer in your hand.
What do you?
It's
You
a city
cannot.
ordinance.
You're not allowed to stand.
A grown adult. I'm a
Even
44
in-
Well, you
Even
might
man.
start
I'm not
to
allowed
dance.
No.
And I've seen Footloose. It's illegal in some places. You can't just do that anywhere.
Yeah. You have to sit down.
Yeah,
How
oh,
do
yeah.
you get? Like if you order at the counter, you
I
can't
know, I guess you
sip
have to
it as
slide
you're
it.
walking to the
Slide
table.
it across, like they have to run a board from the window to the table. Just in a patio at a bar, the bartender kept coming out and going, "We're going to get in trouble, sir. You need to sit down." And then the other thing was, unless you rested your drink on the table, then you could stand, but you could not have the drink in your hand.
What if you did the dog butt scoot across the floor? That you wouldn't be
I'm
standing.
sure
You get
there's an
from point A to
ordinance
point
against that,
B.
too. There's an ordinance against that, too. The other thing is you're not allowed to have
That's in the
alcohol.
small print.
Yeah.
No butt, dog
dog
butt
butt scoot.
scooching.
The other thing is you weren't allowed to have any alcohol outdoors after 10 o'clock. They made everybody move inside in the bars too at 10 o'clock.
All right,
Crazy.
that's why
That's why we love New Orleans
Yes.
and hate every place else. All right,
I
can
want
ask
to get
about
back
wine
to
now?
your original question, but remind me to get back to dog butt scooching.
Okay, all
As
right.
long as you promise
Really?
me that. Yes, for later.
You
Go
have
ahead.
a follow-up on dog butt scooching. I
Yes.
want again,
No,
I want
no,
you
no,
to
no,
answer
no.
that
Some sort of
before.
hashtag.
No,
I
because
should know
it'll
about.
start a whole new thing.
Okay. Well,
Go
okay.
ask your
Let's just
question.
summarize. Let's lay the groundwork, the foundation here. For
Lay it down,
Upperline,
Ray.
And then we can go off on these crazy
All
tangents
right.
because I got a feeling you're going to be one of those guests that has the billion tangents.
Oh,
So we
yeah,
want to
I
have
do.
something to connect at a core.
I'm quite reserved this evening.
Okay, so here's the thing about Upperline, right? 4 chefs, I'm told, in his first 28 years.
Yes.
A total standard in the city. City has these great restaurants, especially uptown in that area has so many great restaurants. But then things started to come apart. It seemed at the seams, right? I think people understand that. The chef who'd been there forever goes off and joins the Roman Catholic priesthood.
Yes.
And you had I think there was 3 or 4 times in 2 or 3 years where you had no chef. Or you had stand-in chefs or whatever,
Yeah.
and it was just kind of a mess. And I remember that time because I used to take people to the restaurant from out of town because it's near where I live, and I had 1 or 2 kind of sketchy meals there, and they weren't terrible. They were just not up to what you would expect at Upperline. And then things turned around. You came there and you saved it from people. I think people are starting to worry that there was a dark cloud hanging over Upperline, and think bad things may happen. Sometimes restaurants are like marriages and other things. They get to an age where they can kind of get stale if they don't move forward. And it seemed like maybe Upperline was hitting that, and then all of a sudden, it's just wonderful again, right? And
Yeah, well,
and
it's
so-
definitely of course, am I ever going to say, oh, my food's the best? Well, yeah, of course I am.
Well, I mean, other people agree, right? I mean, the place just got a 4-bean review.
Yeah, we got a 4-bean review
and
from
so,
the Times-Picayune.
it's not me flattering you. I mean, I think it's pretty much the consensus, right?
We've done fairly well. I didn't, in the Times, for the past 10 years, I hadn't eaten at the Upperline. So I hadn't eaten at the Upperline since Richard Benz was the chef, in the late 90s. And so, and I've always heard wonderful things about Ken Smith, and he was there for 8 years, so I'm sure he did just wonderfully. And then after that, I didn't eat there when the other chefs had come through, and I didn't know them personally on any sort of level. But yeah, there was that aura that there was, like you said, a black cloud hanging over the place, and I showed up and everything dissipated. I think all I ever tried to do, with the original recipes of the restaurant, was just bring them back to how I felt the original chef created them to begin with. It seemed to me like a good story if things had gotten bastardized and lost along the way, and I just sort of brought things back and then added my own touches here.
Yeah, well, I mean, the gumbo's still the duck gumbo, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And there's still the oysters St. Claude there,
Yeah.
and all those things that you kind of think associate with Upperline.
Yes.
But things are all fresh and new. It's not what it was in 2010.
Yeah, there's still all of the original dishes. There isn't a recipe that I haven't touched in one way or another.
Right.
Can you tell us what's something your favorite little update, or not update, but just put your own passion into it besides just your hand?
Well,
is there any?
It just seemed like a lot of the techniques had fallen to the wayside in order for a lack of time, and so things were just sort of getting pushed out through the ovens as fast as it possibly could in order to get the massive amount of prep needed to be done in order to serve 200 people when Jazz Fest is here. And so I just wound up organizing things differently, and from there we could then take the time needed to cook the recipes properly, and then all the flavors go back to the way they should be. And so, like with the duck, the duck, when I started there, and this is a dish that's been on the Food Network's Best Things I Ever Ate.
Right.
And we sell a ton of duck. And these people were coming from all over to get this duck. And meanwhile, the guys were putting it in the oven for 2 hours at like 450 degrees, which is just absurd, That's just such a violent cooking process. And here's this duck supposed to be nice and succulent and tender. And so all I did was just change the marination process to be longer. And then also we put the duck in the oven overnight for 11 hours at 200 degrees, and that just totally changed everything. More fat comes out, and so the skin gets a little crispier, and then the meat itself has been self-basted by the fat all night, and it's a lot more succulent. So it's just small little things like that,
But it sounds fulfilling.
Yeah.
I mean, it must feel good to help bring those things back to a place that you...
Yeah, I had sort of a crazy connection with the Upperline because my first job ever was at Barreca's restaurant on Old Metairie Road. It was my first ever cooking job in like 1990. And at the time when I wanted to progress and learn more, I'd been there for a year and a half, and I had been through all the stations, and I didn't wear penny loafers to work anymore because I didn't know any better. And I started to look around to see where I was going to learn the most. And I had been hearing so many things about the Upperline. So I saw they had an ad in the Times-Picayune, and I went to go apply for a job as a cook. And Tom Cowman was the chef. And Tom was doing some very interesting, revolutionary things, especially at that time in the city where everybody was only, gumbo and fish with crab meat. And Tom was doing some Indian food and some Chinese food and some Moroccan food. And it was very, and even some classic French bistro food, which was very progressive.
The 90s?
Yeah, this was 1990.
Okay.
And so I applied for the job, and Tom actually wound up offering me the job as a line cook. And when I told the owners of Barreca's, or the owner, he said, well, Dave, if you really want to further your career, you should go to culinary school. And I had no idea such a thing even existed. They did not talk about culinary school at career day at Holy Cross, that's for sure. Or I would have done it, because I always wanted to cook. And so I bought a book, The Guide to Culinary Schools. I still have it, and at the time, there's like 50 schools in the U.S. and that's it, Now there's like 50 in every state.
Yeah.
But
so you went to New England, right?
Yeah, I went to the New England Culinary Institute, and the owner offered to pay for me to go if I would work for him when I came back. And instead, I was a hard worker as a kid, and so I had 2 cars. And so I sold one of them for a loan to go to school, and the tuition was $32,000 in 1990, but I sold my car and I used that as the down payment for the loan and then put myself through school. And here I am living the dream.
So you did not want to have him...
No, I wanted freedom.
Freedom.
It was a very old school kitchen. I do have a lot of great fundamentals from that experience, but when you see those things on TV, like with Gordon Ramsay yelling and screaming and throwing things at people, I mean, that really did happen. When Gordon Ramsay was a cook, that's how he was treated. Huh. And when I was a cook, that's how I was treated too. I was just at the end of that phase in America where cooks didn't really get treated that way as much anymore to
So
today.
it wasn't a glamorous, you weren't looking at it as
No. The people in the kitchens when I started, and I wrote a pretty interesting article called Reversal of Fortunes, but the people...
Is this for your blog?
Yeah.
What's your blog's name, by the way?
TheRooterToTheTutor.com.
That's where the dog scooching butt thing was going to come. I was going to ask if
that's... If that dog butt scoot is on the Rooter.
Yes.
Well, my dogs are named Rooter and Tooter. I have 2 dogs named Rooter and Tooter, and it's an old Southern saying. We eat everything on the pig from the rooter to the tooter. And so I worked on a
But you don't cook pig tutor at Upperline.
And not at the Upperline.
Not that you would tell us on air.
No. If I do, it's just for the staff. and so, like I said, I went to the New England because I wanted freedom because, I did learn a lot of hard skills and how to work long, hard hours and all that at Barreca's, and I learned a lot of foundation especially of Creole cooking there. And but I wanted to travel. I had a dream to see crystal blue water, which I was never going to see with the Mississippi. Huh. And so I went to the culinary school so I could go to the Caribbean, and that's what I did.
Oh.
And now, go ahead.
I think it's time for our +1, but he's not coming, is he?
No.
What happened to him?
Pedro Pistola, I believe, is drunk.
What a great name.
At Lafitte. Well, this guy used to work for me when I in Shreveport, and then he came into some money and decided he was going to retire in Costa Rica. And so
Pedro?
Petro?
Yeah, well,
Petro
Peter.
or Pedro?
Peter.
Okay.
He's from Seattle. and he's a hippie, and so Peter moved, and I just call him Pedro because that was his nickname in Costa Rica. Huh. And so Peter moves to Costa Rica, lives there for a few years. About 3 times a year, he sends his daughter, who's still living in Shreveport, to my restaurant to gather up a box of goods that he needs to ship to him that he can't find in Costa Rica, like powdered ranch dressing and horseradish so he can make Bloody Marys and just a million odd things.
You can't get a Bloody Mary in Costa Rica?
I guess.
I can't imagine that.
Well, you enabled him to stay longer. You should have cut off the supply.
I was an enabler. And so,
truth be told, you wanted him to stay there, right?
Because I didn't want to have to support him for the rest of his life.
Right.
But so then he moves back, and he moves to New Orleans before me, and he wound up getting a job, and he was there, I believe, at the Noma, running the kitchen there, and then for Ralph Brennan. And then
recently?
for the past, it was like a couple of years.
It's good.
And
I really like that. That's like my favorite museum kitchen ever. Yeah. Not that I've been to a ton of museum kitchens, but.
And so then Peter, it didn't work out with him and the Brennans, or him and Ralph Brennan, that is, for whatever reason. And we had an opening at the Upperline, and so he
So he's
filled that opening.
He's
and
your sous chef?
yeah.
And
yeah.
he's drunk tonight.
Probably.
And you know what? Okay, so since he couldn't be here,
He
we're going
said
to
he was
talk about
quote
him
unquote
and
sick.
we're
you
going to
know?
slander
Yeah.
him while he's not here. How about this? Why don't you role play? Pretend to be
Yeah.
Peter. We'll interview him right now.
Okay.
And what
Okay.
you think he would answer.
Okay.
But before, okay.
Awesome.
Can I ask the first question?
Sure, go ahead.
As Dave or Peter?
No, it's Peter.
Peter.
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Pedro.
See.
What do you think would happen to you at Upperline if you called in and said you weren't feeling well?
Dave
What
would
Dave-
serve nothing but soup for the day, and the kitchen would get drunk.
All right.
Next.
So was he were you working today?
No, we're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Okay.
Oh yeah, oh no, the upper line it does not function without me there. Not in any way.
You wouldn't take off a night to come talk to us?
It's not that I wouldn't; it's that I wouldn't be allowed to.
Yeah.
But if you pushed it back, we're here at 8. If you pushed it back to 9, then the owner
Now-
wouldn't have taken any late reservations.
Well,
Now,
we were
Joanne-
trying to
could've
do it at
served-
midnight.
Yeah.
We used to, but we couldn't handle
We
it.
found out that chefs are wusses because
What?
Yeah, we start. The whole concept was we were going to have this at midnight because you stay up late and you party all night. And then we started asking all these chefs, and they're like, actually, I like to go to bed early. Can I,
my night off.
Yeah,
It's
it's my
one-
night off. I like to sleep in, and it's like so we pushed it back and back and back. And
Yeah,
finally,
yeah.
It was the chefs that did it. I'd
No,
be happy to do it at midnight.
I would have done it at midnight.
I'm smarter at
I'd have been
midnight.
a lot funnier and better looking because I'm drunk at midnight.
You get better looking
Funnier,
the drunker
I'm
you
better,
are.
and I'm smarter. All of those things. Isn't that the questions they ask you in drinking class? If they think if you want to know if you have a problem. It's like check A. Yes or no. Am I better looking when I'm drinking?
You
I
seem
had an
to know a lot
unfortunate-
about this, Dave.
Well, I had an unfortunate incident with the police at one point in my life, and so afterwards,
Haven't we all?
I did not hire a lawyer because I fessed up. I said yes, I did it. Throw the book at me. I'm willing to pay the price for my wrongdoings. And so they sent me to this thing, and it's like, are you better looking when you drink? Yes or no? And I'm like, yeah. Am I funnier? Yeah. And I just kept waiting for somebody to come back to me after that test. And
They're
say,
like, "You
"Look,
did
son,
great.
you really
You have a problem."
But nobody ever said anything. They're just like, instead of picking up garbage on the street, Chef Dave, we want you to feed the homeless at Thanksgiving. I was like, that's it? So I went to the restaurant and I told all my cooks, look, you're going to make dressing, you're going to make gravy, you're going to make mashed potatoes.
Oh,
I
you
want all this-
delegated.
Yeah, I
Excellent.
delegated, and then I delivered it, and that was it. I helped my fellow man. I paid my $800 fine, and
That sounds
here
like
we
fun.
are. Yeah. And but I learned my
Kids
lesson.
out
I've
there-
don't
never
try
done it
this
yet.
at home.
Yeah,
That
kid.
won't
I was
work.
going to say, kids, go ahead and drive drunk. It
Yeah.
sounds like a good. That
That's
sounds
why
like
I
a
live
good
a
option.
block to the streetcar line right now. Never drive again. Never, ever, ever.
Really? How'd you get here?
Well, I didn't drink.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right, so,
Wait,
so back
Pedro.
to Joanne. Oh,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
Pedro. Go to Pedro.
Yes.
What do you think's going to happen to you on Wednesday when you're back in the kitchen for dissing?
Well, I'm going to bring
Chef
Chef
David.
Dave upon me, and he's going to instantly forget about everything.
All right.
That's what's
all
going
right.
to happen.
Well,
Oh,
I
well.
guess that'll.
Yeah, let's just do this all night. Can you role play other people too? Go back
Yeah,
to
you
Tom
name-
Cruise. What did Tom Cruise do when you be Tom Cruise when you kicked
He's
him out
still
of the restaurant in
fuming
Shreveport?
because he.
Come on, I'm the guy from Top Gun. I'm best friends with
That doesn't
Val
work.
Kilmer.
Then he showed his double secret Scientology
Yeah, he
ID
ju-
card, and that's when you
He
quivered.
came up to my side door of the restaurant, his glass, and he came and put his buttocks on it and thought that would just let me open, let
Did
him
he really
right
do
on
that?
in. No.
Oh.
But in my mind he did, and isn't that the same thing? He might
drinking
should
that
have.
And look, you should thank him. It makes a better story than him actually
Yeah,
eating there.
yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
totally. Yeah, right. I mean,
So
we
he probably doesn't-
Yes, he
One
definitely
time
did that.
Probably would have asked for everything on the side, and could you cook it differently and make it gluten free?
That was Cher.
Oh,
really.
That was Cher.
She was
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah. There was a lot of crazy people that came through. Yeah, Cher was everything on the side, to the point I was like, why are we even cooking this food?
Well, she's like anorexic
You
at
know,
117 years old. So what can she eat, right? I mean, she has
Simpson
to.
had this rider list that was 2 pages long of all this vegetarian tofu, turkey, and on and on and on. And then the last line says 2 bottles of Grey Goose. And then that's all she had the whole time. And then Ashton Kutcher sits in the parking lot, and he sends in his assistant to come look around the restaurant to make sure everything's okay for him to come in. And we're like, we don't even know what's going on. I just see this girl sitting in a booth, and she's looking around, and then she picks up her cell phone, and then in walks him and the Demi Moore, And I'm like, God, you're the guy from Dude, Where's My Car? Is all this really necessary? And then I have this old black lady that works with me in this kitchen, Miss Eveline. And she doesn't see me sitting at the bar of the restaurant. She thought I was off that night. And she literally comes out into the diner, right in the middle of the diner, and just stands there staring at him. And she's going, Tom. No, sorry, Ashton. Jimmy, Ashton. Damn it. And I turn, I'm like, Miss Evelina. Oh, I'm sorry, baby. I didn't know you was here. And she would run back in the kitchen. Maybe that's what the girl was waiting for with the cell phone, the assistant. I don't know. It was a lot of weird things.
Did you get more celebrities at your Shreveport place than in Upperline?
Well, it's a different type of celebrity. The Upperline, a lot of the celebrity people are, they're like authors. They're more like the intellectual types. We did have Robert De Niro come twice last month, and that was kind of nice. But some of the celebrities have these doctors that are just say the most absurd things to these guys, and they just outright believe them. Like, David Morse, he could have sea salt, but he couldn't have kosher salt. And he could have imported cheese, but he couldn't have domestic cheese. And it was all these, he could have olive oil and butter, but not some canola oil. I mean,
so is he telling all this to the waiter, or is he like going right to you?
Well,
he
had that could be for political reasons, though, isn't he?
Well, no, some Chinese medicine doctor told him these things however long ago for whatever ailment he had, and he's just followed it strictly ever since. And so they sent over a list on the email, and then when he showed up, I'm looking at I have everything ready to do how he wants, And this girl was coming back in the kitchen, and she's like, no, you don't understand. You have to. And this has become the slogan of our kitchen for everybody that has a fake allergy. And you don't understand. If you don't use the sea salt instead of the kosher salt, he might die. And I just stand there looking at because it was actually on my day off.
I'm going to use that on my wife.
We were closed that day.
I'm using that on my wife tomorrow.
And I'm looking at this girl, and I'm thinking, honey, this is my day off, He's lucky I'm here at all, okay? And so now every single time somebody comes in and I'm allergic to garlic. I get these sort of small things a lot. I'm allergic to garlic. And there's a big difference between being allergic and having an intolerance. If you go poo-poo all day, that doesn't mean you're allergic. That just means your belly gets a little upset, But, so every time somebody says anything, we're back in the kitchen. Yes, we are laughing at all of you.
An ambulance
and it's
because
they're
got
gonna
the runs.
die. Don't do it.
Now, Joanne's always there, right?
Yes.
I've never been to Upperline where she wasn't there.
Yeah, I've been there.
Now, she's got to be like, you're not going to tell me how old she is, I'm sure, but she's got to be in her 70s for sure.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah. She's a little over 70. I'm not. She's probably told me, but that's one of those things I just don't have the ability to remember.
Does she give you? I mean, being in that's her baby. She's been like 30 years, a little over 30 years, right?
Yes.
And it's got to, but she's not a micromanager. I mean, she
isn't a lot of things.
Did she
she's
invent
probably
a few of the dishes that you have too?
Yes, she did. Like, she was the original creator of the fried green tomato shrimp remoulade
which everybody
combination.
has.
Yeah, that's correct.
80% of the fine restaurants in the city have that dish. She's the one that invented that.
Across the South.
Are we pretty sure that she's the one?
Actually, yes, she's positive.
I've read that in print too, and no one's disputed it.
She's such a historian on food. What amazed me the first time I met her and interviewed for the job was how much she knows about food and even the current things. When I would say to her some obscure names of chefs that are European, she knew exactly, and she not only knew exactly what I was talking about, but she had been to their restaurants to eat. And then she'll often come to me with stuff. Well, Dave, who was that one chef who was skinny and he worked at Chez Panisse and then he opened his own place? I'd say Jeremiah Tower. Yeah, that's right. I was like, and then I'll tell her how I went to Stars, and who was that one French chef who was real skinny and he was a chain smoker and he had curly hair? Jean-Louis Palanet. Yeah, that's right. And, I'll tell her my story about him, because I'm a whore for traveling. I just always, I just have to go.
How do you get away?
Oh, well, he's just like you
going to trust Pedro to take care of your kitchen?
It's a lot of fast trips. When I left, but when I owned my restaurant in Shreveport, I could pretty much come and go as I wanted.
The restaurant's Wednesday to Sunday?
Well, no, at the Upperline, the Upperline's Wednesday to Sunday.
Yeah.
In Shreveport, I was the owner, so I could come and go whenever I wanted. And I had a pretty good crew there that took care of everything. And then when I took the job as a private traveling chef, then that's all I did was travel.
Oh, that's right. You were chef like on private jets, right?
Yeah.
You logged like 50,000 miles or something
jets.
like that in a year or something.
Yeah.
How do you cook on a jet?
You have to season things more because of the altitude.
Really?
But, a lot of times what would happen would be, I'd have somebody that would say, hey, we're going to, either Florida, the Bahamas, or Los Angeles or wherever, and so just come with us. You'll fly over with us and cook for as long as you can, and then we'll just pay for your flight back to wherever you want to go. And so that's what I would do. I would usually, like half of my trips would be flying on their plane, whether it was going there or coming back, and the other half was, American Airlines, and back in coach with reality, But yeah, you get really spoiled flying on a plane. In Scotland, we didn't even have to go through security. We just walked off the plane, walked in the car, and went to the hotel,
Well, they're just so happy to have good food in Scotland, right? It's not boiled or haggis, right?
I had haggis every meal there.
Oh, gee. I used to have haggis once a year at this Robert Burns Society I went to. It was always gross. Always gross. New York City haggis had to be the best haggis besides Scotland, right?
Yeah, I loved it.
Really?
I thought it was great because it reminded me a lot of boudin noir, black sausage, except for it has oats in it, or even the Cajun shodan.
You're the only one it reminds of boudin noir.
Wait, when you were traveling and cooking for people, did you use ingredients that were indigenous to the places you go to?
Definitely. That's all I did. And some of the local influence, like it would always be a touch of the South in what I cooked, but there would always be nothing but local ingredients. And even some or local traditions, whatever it was I would see or I would find when I was there, definitely all the time. I mean, I spent a couple summers, 3 weeks in Alaska, and so how could I avoid, all the fish and the halibut and the salmon, and I would do everything with it. I'd cure the eggs to make caviar. At one point,
so
the
are you
fishermen,
shy to do that because you're not familiar with the ingredients? You just jump
no,
right in.
Yeah.
Are you tasting them first before you're serving them?
Oh,
people,
definitely. Yeah. But if you do it long enough, your fear levels drops. You're always a little nervous in any situation because you have a lot of pride in what you do.
Right.
But I'm never fearful that I'm gonna fail.
Let me ask you a question. I've never asked one of the guests before. I've wondered a couple times and it just hasn't come up. But any of us that do things that are at all artistic, we see it differently than other people see it, right?
Yes, definitely.
Right, so I speak for a living, and I work on my talk every week, and it's 20 hours or so, 15 hours I work on it. It sounds different to me. Some of the ones I love, everybody else hates, and they're awful, and they're great to me. I mean, are you that way with food? Like, are you... I know I've had visual artists tell me that before. Like, I love this painting so much, and no one else likes it, but I love it. It means something to me.
Yeah.
Like, when you taste food, doing that for a living, doing it in stages, when you're working on a dish or whatever, does it taste different to you than it does to the person?
Well, it definitely does because everybody's looking to make a connection with their childhood. And so something may connect with you that doesn't connect with other people. And so to you, it might be the greatest dish you ever tasted. And to other people, they just don't get it. I had a molecular gastronomy meal at Moto in Chicago. And it was all these dishes were all supposed to be all these great, wonderful things. But especially with molecular gastronomy, you have to know what you have to relate. You have to relate to these flavors from this person, and I just didn't relate to his flavors, and so to me, I just didn't get it. No matter how many awards of the place I won, I just didn't get it. And I left, and I went and got something to eat somewhere else.
I don't believe in molecular gastronomy. I just don't believe in it.
Well,
it's like quantum physics. It's like, you know what I mean? I just don't believe in it.
I'm just not smart enough to do it. Yeah, that's all that is.
Well, we have a book of question for you, right?
Yes.
You know about this? Have
No.
you heard any of our
Okay.
You've not listened to any of our shows, have you?
Oh, I don't know how to work
You just came on here
the
cold.
radio.
We could have been a total, like, well, we are clowns, but okay. Go ahead.
All right, pick a number between 1 and 200 and
My
17.
daughter was born on the 30th. 30.
30.
30th of what?
October.
It's
October.
just this
She
past
just turned
October.
8 months. Yeah, it's just turned 8 months.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is it
Thank you,
first?
thank you. Yes.
How long you been married?
A year and a half.
All right.
It'll be 2 years in August.
All right.
Okay. Would you rather be given $10,000 for your own use or $100,000 to give anonymously to strangers? What if you could keep $1 million or give away $20 million?
Now, by the way, this is $1982. This is the book
Yeah.
of questions. You may be old enough to remember this book. I don't know. But so you got to basically triple all those numbers, I think, in your head.
Yes.
But go ahead.
Would you be
Keep
rather
$3 million to myself?
No,
Oh
no,
yeah,
no,
everybody's
not
on your
three.
own.
Where'd you get $3 million?
Oh, well, because
No,
he
no,
said
no.
triple the
Yeah, I
million.
say, that's roughly.
Okay.
You know what? I'd do $1 million too.
What about the 10,000? Would you keep 10,000 for your own use or give $100,000
But the thing
away?
is, with me, with my own use means I'm pretty much blowing it on my friends. That's what I do anyway.
Drinking.
You
mostly,
know.
yeah.
So
and
you're kind of giving
yeah,
it
Yeah,
away.
yeah. I took 2 friends, 2 dishwashers, and Peter to Galatoire's last week, 2 weeks ago for lunch, and the bill was $1,500.
Wait, how many
So-
people was it?
It was 2 dishwashers, Pedro Pistola, and 2 good friends of mine that I grew up with.
So 6 of you was $1,500.
Yeah.
So
You spent
you'd-
$275 a person at lunch at Galatoire's.
The wine
You'd blow
was
that
really good.
You'd blow that 10 grand in a few days. Huh?
Oh, yeah, I could
Okay.
do it in 2 meals.
I'm great at 6th
Okay.
grade
I
math,
could do
by
it
the
in
way.
2
if you
hours.
Where
didn't
would be the
notice
second place you would go in New Orleans besides your own restaurant
that. I'd buy jumpsuits
to spend?
$275.
To spend big money?
Well, to spend the rest of the 10,000 that you're giving to your friends.
All right, I've done this before, and this is I don't do one place. I go to whatever hotel I'm at. My friends love traveling with me because I go to whatever hotel I'm at. I rent a big passenger van, 12-passenger van. I get a bellman. I say, who's off tomorrow? And whoever's off, I tell them I'll give you $250 to drive me and all my friends around the whole city and just go to every single restaurant all day long. You can't drink. We'll pay for food for every single place we go, and you have to go until we're done. And it's usually a good 14-hour day.
Man, can I be your friend?
And then
Wow,
we-
I was just thinking the same
Or the-
thing.
or
Get in
the
the
driver.
car. We get in the
I
car.
love
We go to
you.
the liquor store. We load it up with a case of wine. We get a case of wine. We buy glasses, and then we just start going to every restaurant we want to go to.
Have
couldn't
you ever
do
done that in New
Shreveport.
Orleans?
Yes, I have. We
Where'd you
started
go?
off.
Where'd you go?
We
List the
started.
places.
We start off going to Drago's.
That you remember.
We went to Drago's for oysters, and then from there we went to Liuz's by the track.
Love that place.
From there we went to
Barbecue,
yeah, barbecue
shrimp,
shrimp,
po'
po' boy.
boy.
Yep. From there
and not
we
big shrimp, they're little shrimp, but there's billions of
yeah,
them.
that's
it's
right.
Like 3
yeah,
inches
yeah,
thick
yeah,
of
yeah.
shrimp.
And then from there we went to this bar in Fat City called Uncle Larry's, which is really cheesy, and they have like professional foosball tables. And then so after that we went to Uglish, which was still open at the time, but
Wow.
it started raining. So a couple of my friends got out and waited in line. A couple of my friends and my mom actually got out and
Your
waited.
mom went with
Oh
you.
yeah. And she waited in line, and when they got to the
That's
front
too
of the
loud,
door,
Chris,
they said no. If everybody in the van wants to come in, they all have to wait out in the rain, and nobody would get out of the van.
Really?
so then.
And
we
now
left.
they'll never have the opportunity.
Yeah.
they regret that now.
My friend that
That's
waited
lame
in line.
friends. I totally would have waited in the rain.
Yeah.
I can't wait to heaven, so I
Right,
finally get to go to
right.
Euclid's. Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been.
All right.
And then we
Can we
went
be
to-
on the next party bus?
No, yeah, of course.
Wait,
Well,
where else
wait.
did you go?
We went
What
to
trip?
Pascal Manali's. We just showed up and they gave us a whole side room to ourselves. And then we went to Giacomo and
Holy
they gave
crap.
us a whole room to ourselves.
See that? Oh.
And then we went to the Monkey Hill Bar. And
What?
then And then I got in an argument with a friend of mine at the time. He was the sommelier of Peristyle, and he was real insistent on going to in front of his wife, going to Rick's Cabaret.
What?
And I went
What
to
a
bed.
weird mix.
I went to bed. I said no.
Did you leave him
with you
in?
too? You
Yeah,
can't go to
yeah,
Rick's.
yeah.
First of all, you
Did
shouldn't
you
be going to
leave
Rick's.
them?
I'm
Did
gonna
you
say
leave
on
them
record,
with
you
the
shouldn't be going
van,
to Rick's
or
Cabaret
did you
anyway.
tell the?
Oh no, because the van was.
But with
the
your
van,
mom.
The van went and dropped everybody off.
your mom
and then
go?
parked it at the hotel. I was staying at the Maison Dupuis, and they parked the van at the hotel.
What?
The next morning, I woke up and I returned the van, and then that was that.
Okay.
And I did the same in Charleston. I've done the same in Savannah.
I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight. I'm gonna be thinking through this list over and over and over again. That's
Okay,
crazy. What a
Pedro.
weird
Should
list.
we ask Pedro a question, or should we just
Let's
interrogate
ask
him?
Pedro a question.
See?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Pedro, what's your favorite number?
Ocho.
Ocho. What is
Ocho,
that? 8? Is that 8? I'm
See,
sorry.
because eight's
Okay.
just the right amount of beers I have to have before I start to get a buzz.
Okay. Pedro, would you rather be a member of a world championship sports team or be the champion of an individual sport?
I would like to be the individual champion of full contact basketball. That would be my ultimate goal in life, would be to lay out the dishwashers on the basketball court. I hate them all.
Okay. Can we just get back to you write. Not
Yes.
only do you speak
Well, you got a
so
cookbook
eloquently.
coming out. You have a cookbook coming out in July, right?
Oh no, I'm a part of the Treme cookbook that's
Okay.
coming out, Nick. But there's
You
a
write on
lot of
this
great
blog,
chefs in the book, and so Lolis Eric Eli, famous food writer from New Orleans and the creator of the Treme series, put together this cookbook, and I'm in it with the oyster St. Claude dish from the Upperline.
Really?
I did I kind of took it on as a challenge because Anthony Bourdain wrote the introduction, and Eric
Oh, he
Ripert
loves
is a
New
Michelin
Orleans.
3-star
that
chef,
crazy,
and David Chang, and then John Besh, and all these people are in the book, and I'm insanely competitive, and so
Were you on the show?
Well, pardon?
Did you a cameo on the show or anything like that? I thought Joanne was, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was. They
Yeah.
filmed twice. They filmed the part of the last season there, and so, but I'm
So
insanely.
you were driven to.
Yeah. So I wrote this great recipe that pretty much links oysters to freeing the slaves.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're pretty much responsible for the Emancipation Proclamation.
Well,
Wait, now wait a second. Hold on. Wait.
Well, that's how it goes. It's the emancipation of slaves is how I link eating oysters to the emancipation of slavery, and
Slavery wouldn't be so bad if we had oysters St. Claude all the time.
That's right,
I'm kidding.
that's
That's a
right.
joke. I didn't mean
Well-
that.
well,
This is the end of the
there's a-
show now. This is gonna be. I
Well,
just
there's a
jumped the
key.
shark. I didn't
there's
mean that. It was
the
a
key
joke.
part of the recipe
I know it
says,
wasn't
and
funny,
the
I'm
only
sorry.
way that you can make this dish decently is if you go free some lemons from your neighbor's yard, and so you got to, however it is you're going to procure those lemons to free them, to emancipate them from their captivity is what you have to do. And that,
Is this in the book?
Yes. And so I'm proud for that to be in there.
Wait, so Oyster St. Claude was predates you.
Yeah.
Then you updated it. And then you rewrote it for the book.
Yes.
So now, are you using that recipe in the restaurant now? The one in the book?
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
so the book helped you improve your oyster. You had already improved
Your
your oyster
competitiveness.
St. Claude. You'd already improved the dish.
Yeah.
The historic dish. It's been there
Yeah.
30 years. You've already improved it.
Yes.
And then you improved it again for the book, and now you've maintained that. That's
Yes.
Do you
cool.
steal lemons from any neighbors at
What
the
kind of
restaurant?
lemons?
No
do you use
comment.
for it?
My lawyer would kill me if I answered
I have
that.
a Meyer lemon tree in my
he's
backyard,
listening,
and you're more than
I'm
welcome.
sorry,
to
emancipate them.
You can
Yeah,
emancipate my
there's a
Meyer
lot of
lemons
things here.
anytime.
That was really the only reason I didn't drink before this interview, because I felt that my lawyer, Greg, would kill me over saying a lot of things that I definitely would just open my mouth and say if I had a beverage or two before starting.
Well, I think you did all right. I think you.
That's
Now, how often do you post on your blog?
Oh, not off. You see, I'm going back and forth. The world of publishing is very crude and tight-lipped, and somewhat of a fraternity, somewhat of a sorority, and it's really hard to get into. No matter how good I look in a mini dress, and the world of the chef has kind of gone the way of the world of the sportscaster. You know, these guys went to college and they did this and that and the other, and now they're getting pushed aside for these people that were athletes and not really trained, talking people like yourself, Ray. And so,
come on.
and so, they're kind of viewing chefs as that, because chefs are starting to move into that realm, and they're taking their dollar out of their pocket, really. And so it's really hard to get into. And so I've been focusing mostly on writing cookbooks and not as much of the blog. You know, the blog was to build a platform, and I've done pretty well with it. I wish I posted more in it. But now all the writing I've been mostly doing has been for 2 different cookbooks that I have.
All right, so when did they come out?
Well, I got to get a deal first.
Oh, okay.
But one
Any
of them, I'm
publishers
hoping
listening?
Judith Jones, who was the editor of Julia Child's Mastering the Art of French Cooking, she wanted to do my book as her
She's
last
still alive?
one. Yeah, she's 80. She lives in Vermont, and she was the vice president of NOP. And she wanted to do my book, The Rooter to the Tutor, as her last thing. And after she retired,
Wait, your book's called The Rooter to the Tutor?
Yeah. Her last thing as she
how can you not buy
retired,
that? Just for the title.
and then her assistant takes it over.
Right.
And so we started working on it, and I have about half of the book done. She retires, and the one guy above her just would never sign off on it. This guy, whoever's the president, and he just Sonny Maida, and he just wouldn't sign off on the deal. And so eventually her assistant, Ken, who was in publishing for 20 years, got so upset he quit, left New York,
Over
moved
you.
back in with his parents in Ohio, and now he works.
It ruined his life.
Now he works
They wouldn't
as
take
like
your book, and it ruined his life.
canoe teacher, or something at a national park in Ohio.
All because of you.
Yeah. And so other than that, the Route to the Tour is extremely original, and so a lot
That
of people
connects
don't
to
see a lot of
Scientology somehow, I can
I
tell.
call it more of a cult book, but to me that's what makes it timeless.
So it's not just recipes; it's narrative. Then
That's
and
there's a lot of narrative.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. There's poetry in it, food
Really?
poetry. There's a lot of crazy
Do
things
you,
in
do
it.
you photograph your work too? Is there a
Yeah. And I've done really well learning how to do the photo, because I had to learn to do it for the blog. But also, this past January, Tabasco paid me an obscene amount of money to do food food styling for them. Yeah, for 2 days, which was great. You know, but now I've moved on to something that's a little bit more commercially appealing, to at least break down the barrier and get my foot in the door. And I'm hoping to hear back from Southern Living this week for that.
Wow.
Well,
Okay. Well, now
good
we only have
luck.
5 minutes left.
I'd love to read.
The clock is ticking here. It's 1 a.m. No, but you were on Chopped, right?
Oh no!
You didn't,
I was.
They cut your. They
Yeah.
chopped your.
Well,
your
They chopped me.
if you speak about it, though, don't you get in trouble? I
Well,
was gonna
this is
talk
what
to you
happened.
about
never
this.
aired.
This is what happened. Yeah, it never aired. This is what happened. They came and they filmed me. I was going to be on the show. It was literally
You showed up
a
drunk in
week.
the mini dress, didn't
No, well, that was between you and me. Right? They literally, a week before I'm supposed to fly to New York, the chef across the street tweeted something about going on the show. And so, and she wasn't going for like 3 months after. So I figured, oh, well, I guess it's okay. And so all I said was, you're not the only one.
I saw that.
And that was it. And they said I violated some confidentiality,
Oh.
and they kicked me off.
They're not
so I
from here.
canceled my flight to New York, and then I bought a flight to Los Angeles, and the wife and I spent Mardi Gras at the Beverly Hills Hotel.
That's right, because it was during Mardi Gras. That's right. I saw that. You had to miss Mardi Gras.
Yeah. And
Well-
then,
Oh, but we all know
That
that LA has
probably-
a great Mardi Gras, though, doesn't it?
You were with your wife, who
Yeah.
we didn't get to hear about, but that probably
she's
was
awesome.
much more
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Yeah. She was
Their
going to come to
loss,
New York
right?
with me too. And we had just found out we left that on Sunday. We had just found out on Saturday that she was pregnant.
Wow.
And so we were going to celebrate anyway. That was fine, I would have loved to compete because I am so competitive, but it is what it is.
There was another New Orleans chef on that show, right? No?
There was a couple of them.
Did you wait? Let me ask you. Do they cancel the whole show?
No, they just canceled me, and they found somebody to fill in real fast.
Because it wouldn't be like the Scientologist.
Oh, I don't know. They wouldn't tell me.
So it wouldn't be like the Scientologist after you, like you ruined it for all those.
This is Scientology.
That's what happened.
All right. It sounds our producer is signaling us we are done. I can't
Oh,
believe
that must have been
so
like
fast.
a whole 10 minutes or something.
Pedro,
No, that was awesome.
we're glad you weren't here.
Yeah.
Only in spirit because this was great.
I hate you, Peter.
Well, y'all are scraping down the grill back in the kitchen, and they're about to start putting the chairs up on the table here in the restaurant, so it's time for us to say goodnight. Thanks so much for joining us tonight on Midnight Menu Plus One. We know that time off in the restaurant business is a precious commodity.
Oh, yeah.
And, you don't get a lot of it.
Especially with a newborn.
With the newborn, so we appreciate you coming out and spending time with us here.
Anytime at all.
Well, our special guest tonight on Midnight Menu Plus One was Chef David Bridges, and his plus one was Pedro Pistolas in absentia.
Persona.
Yeah, and persona non grata. And you can find out more about Upperline Restaurant at our website, itsneworleans.com. We're going to post a link there. And you can also find out about your blog. Say it again.
TheRooterToTheTutor.com.
If we just put that in Google, we're going to show up.
Oh,
your blog,
yeah, it definitely
right?
will. There's nothing else like it. It'll
Nothing
be the
else
first
like
thing
it,
that pops up.
All right, cool. Well, our show is recorded live at Ted's Frost Top on Claiborne Avenue in Calhoun in Uptown New Orleans. Ted's is open 7 days a week, serving first-class burgers, beer, and their awesome homemade root beer in a frosty mug. Midnight Menu Plus One is produced by Grant Morris. Chris Keogh is our technical director. The fabulous audio quality that you hear before you today on the show is brought to you in part by PreSonus Audio Electronics. PreSonus makes some of the best audio recording and live sound products, including Studio One music production software, Studio Live digital mixing consoles, and Aris studio monitors, a whole lot more. Visit PreSonus.com for more information. Now, if you'd like to get in touch with us here at Midnight Menu Plus One, go to our website, itsneworleans.com, and from there you can follow us on Twitter, you can find us on Facebook, you can sign up for our mailing list, you can join our fan club, you can do all kinds of things. While you're at itsneworleans.com, you can listen to other episodes of Midnight Menu Plus One. You really want to do that, as well as other shows. This Happy Hour, Mindset, True to the Game, Win-Win, Out to Lunch. If you're listening to the show on iTunes, thank you. Thank you for subscribing. Maybe you could take a minute to rate us and review us. That helps people find us. Midnight Menu Plus One is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsneworleans.com. Until we meet again here at Ted's Frost Top, I'm Ray Canada.
And I'm Margot Moss.
See you back here on Midnight Menu Plus One.
You know Labor Day signals the unofficial end of summer, but not the end of your outdoor projects. Lowe's helps you do it right and helps you save with Labor Day deals throughout the store. Shop now and get 2 bags of Stay Green potting mix for $12. And keep your lawn looking neat and trim with a Craftsman 2-cycle 17-inch gas string trimmer, now $20 off at just $119. Whatever's still on your to-do list this Labor Day, do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through 8/28. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii, U.S. only.